I'm Johnny Hollander.
I'm Eric Hayden.
I'm Nick Mason.
And I'm Dan Bouchard.
And this is Neon Static. Welcome to episode either 5 or 6 of Neon Static. Not exactly sure right now because we're in the middle of recording and editing other podcasts. It's in the mix. It'll be there somewhere. You'll know because you'll have seen the title.
Yeah, that is accurate.
We are reporting live from Mansion Runner 2023 as undercover agents, and we are here with a special guest, Dan B. Dan, can you introduce yourself?
Yeah, my name is Dan Bouchard, aka Dan B, or Booshy, or... Yeah, that's most of my titles and names. And yeah, Mansion Runner. We're here at a little. I wouldn't say tournament, but an event that I run every year. I am the marketing lead for NSG, and I am the tournament organizer for the Rhode Island and very little into the southern Massachusetts area, as it is with New England.
You forgot one of your titles is Hype Man Extraordinaire.
Hype Man, yeah.
That is true.
I do that a lot.
I think Dan is responsible for like 50% of the current player base, like getting into the game at this point. So
my ego's pretty big, so you don't need to do that.
Yeah, that's okay. So are ours, especially Nick's.
Yes, that is correct.
Yeah,
you guys know about the shut up and sit down story, right?
No, what?
Yeah. So I run the convention presence, at least organizing some of them, being directly running them, especially in the Northeast, as well as like helping out the rest of the NSG folks when they are doing conventions in other parts of the world, like UK Games Expo, Essen, PAX Australia, that sort of thing. For PAX Unplugged 2021, I believe it was. Yes, it was 2021. I had a little bit too much to drink the night before on Thursday, right? We were setting up and it's just like, oh, look, there's a little industry party. I had a couple margaritas beforehand. And just
I love stories that start like this, by the way.
Well, it's just like in the morning, hangover, getting the booth like going and everything. It's good. And then our lead designer at the time, June, was at the booth. And I just go to June and I say, like, I need 45 minutes. Just go back to my hotel and lay down for a bit and take some Advil and just like refresh. And I did that. Yeah, the hotel was connected. I come back, and as I'm coming back, I see Quinn's from Shut Up and Sit Down, and I'm just like, I should probably go talk to him and say hi or whatever. And I have my NSG shirt, or it was the Project Nisei shirt at the time, right? Yep. So I had that shirt on, and I did the polite thing, and I stand behind stand off to the side, do a little head nod, say like, oh yeah, I'm waiting to talk. And he recognized me because he was talking to someone else. And then he does a double take, looks at the shirt, and he's like points at me and says like, I'm going to talk to you. Yeah.
That's awesome.
So because of me, so I was at the right place at the right time going to, we set up a little meeting before the con opened on Saturday. And Quinn's and Tom went to the booth and had like a 2-hour long conversation with June and a little bit with me about the game and everything, and that led to the Shut Up and Sit Down video, which was
that's boom. How that kind of came about. That's awesome. Yeah, I don't know if Nick, have you seen the video? No. Johnny and I definitely have both watched the Tom Brewster Netrunner special. He put in like it was like 25-minute. It's the standard Shut Up and Sit Down like quality production level, like this huge piece into Netrunner and why you should get into it in, I think 2022 is when he did it. But
he did the cool thing. He actually changed the title to why you should get into Netrunner in 2023. So I don't know if he's going to update it for in perpetuity, but that was pretty cool.
Just continually. They just have to make a new one every year.
I really like being a marketing person in this role because it's like different than any other like marketing position in the world, right? Because I don't care about people buying stuff, right? It's just like I'm marketing something that I don't want. Like I want people to play the game. And that's what everyone in NSG does, right? We're doing it because we want the game to grow, but like play on JNet, proxy cards, like
right.
I don't like it's great. Yeah, buy the cards. It funds the sets, but not everyone has to do that, right? It changes the dynamic a ton.
So obviously you've had a massive amount of success in revitalizing the game after it was canceled by FFG. And I'm just curious, what what was your thought process and your strategy like when it was canceled and the player base kind of fell off and you kind of had to rebuild from, not from scratch, but almost?
Were you playing when it got canceled?
Yes. So you just addressed me as, you're not addressing me as Dan, you're addressing me as Null Signal. So because, and I'm telling you that's what you're doing because a lot, like, yes, I hyped the, there might have been some nice exponential growth or some big growth because of marketing stuff, but I think it's very small percentage. You can only hype something that's awesome, and everyone in the organization has made something awesome, and it makes it a super easy sell, right? Like, I'll get to your question in a second, but when people come to a booth, it's like the easiest sell in the world. If you can get someone to the table, they're in, right? Like they want to learn about this.
So that's my wife.
Yeah. I mean, this game definitely has a lot going for it. Just when you see it on the table, I mean, the theme, the artwork, it is very easy to just look at it and be like, that's a game I want to play, even if you know nothing else about it.
Especially if you walk by and someone's got like custom acrylic tokens or their their poker chips that they've spun up. It's like it's enough effort to do all that for it. This must be some good stuff.
And the game looks weird, right? Like
it does.
Card game players, like, you play Magic, you play Yu-Gi-Oh, you play Pokemon, you walk by that, be like, that looks cool, and also what the heck is going on?
Right, with all the columns and the sideways cards.
Right, just like your game is different than that game. It's like, yeah, it's completely different, right? But in terms of like what it took to be successful, and just to preface, I was not part of NSG in 2018. I think I joined in 2020. But I knew a lot of people that did, and I think I was part of playtest, but I didn't really playtest that much. So I just kind of like poked in, took a look at cards, and didn't have enough time as I thought I did. But besides that, and we'll talk about this a bit more when we're going to talk about growing a community, but it's all about like consistency. It's all about, and it was quality, right? And it was showing something that we wanted to do, right? And there was a bit of a change, right? It was make something cool, make some good cards to continue the game, right? Which is what Ashes was. And then make something to bring new players in, because we need to sustain before we could grow. And I think that the design decisions that were made that possible. And we did as best as we could with Ashes, right? With the art budget and everything we had. And it looked good enough that we could definitely like bring in some new players and then continue the game. And then once Gateway dropped and we're starting to pull in like the same artists that FFP used, like that was when it was.
That's a huge noticeable difference. So we all were not playing during the Ashes cycle, and Johnny and I played prior. Nick didn't, and then when we came back in, Ashes was already released, and we bought Ashes and Midnight Sun, and then Borealis was like a month after we started, or very close thereafter.
Nice.
And looking through the cards that we no longer were going to legally be able to play in Startup as one set, and then looking through all of the new cards that just came out for Startup, it's such a big difference in the art. Yeah. It's just the art.
Yeah.
And I think maybe some learning with, there's a lot more words, heavy text cards in Startup. There's a lot of big, long paragraphs that you're reading versus more digestible cards. But like the professionalism ticked up so strongly in this last set that
we had a budget, right?
I know, right. That's such a huge thing, but it's incredible what a difference making the art have that authenticity from the original part of the game was. Yeah. It's awesome.
There was something that I don't want to gloss over because I think it's really, really important. And I don't know if you know that Eric and I also do an 18xx podcast, and there's this perpetual discussion.
First of all, do you know what that is?
Yeah.
Okay.
So for anyone that doesn't, these are train games. They're very heavy games, and it's totally irrelevant to what I'm about to say next. But there is a perpetual argument or discussion about what is the best introductory game. And inevitably, the answer always ends up being the same thing. And it's introduce people to what you're excited about, because that's how you get people excited about it. And so obviously, you mentioned that was part of your strategy, and there were other things that you mentioned, but I think that is so key. If you're excited about something, it is so easy for that to rub off onto the people that you're introducing to the game.
Hey, you want to get like one of your Magic the Gathering friends into Netrunner? just like show them the basic action card and have them like draw 2 cards on their turn. They're in there.
I can draw whenever I want.
Draw whenever you want.
I don't play Magic, but I know that I've noticed that with Magic players. And Nick, you've played Magic, I assume?
Yeah. I played a bit, mostly like draft and limited formats.
Right. But when we showed Nick Netrunner, he could not stop talking about how clever the click is.
I still
He's like,
I still love the click as a design element.
What? You can limit how many cards you play in a turn?
Right. It's like it's such a smart way to like make your turns make actions in a turn into a limited resource so that you don't have to have mana ramps and all these other things to kind of slow things down and set the tempo.
Damn mana ramps.
So you see that in a lot of other games too, right?
Yeah.
And I like to tell people, and you see this a lot, speaking of conventions, when I'm at a convention, the first people that come up are the people at the booth, other booths, because they're, and it's a lot of game designers. Oh my gosh, I love Netrunner. Like, they love talking about it. Netrunner is like your favorite designer's favorite game, is what I like to say, because you see, that's the game that they're playing when they're at their studio, like trying to find ideas. And they're playing through that because it's such a well-designed game. And that's not even the 2012 version. That goes back to 1996, Richard Garfield. That's when the clicks were introduced. And you see that in a lot of games now because, they played Netrunner back in the day, or they played it in some capacity and it said, yes, that is cool. An action economy just makes sense.
Yes.
Was the original Netrunner after Magic?
Yes, it was after Magic. Yeah.
So it's almost like he learned something from designing that game.
Almost like it.
Almost.
And then Wizards said, but this already makes us so much money.
Exactly.
Yep.
No shade, Wizards. Actually, yes, shade. I don't know. I don't like that whole CCG model. That sucks.
Should we talk a little bit about Netrunner?
We should. Yeah. Can you tell us where we are and what we are doing?
So we are north of Boston in a very small little town called Manchester by the Sea at a, I don't even know the square footage, but
not very small.
It is it is a big villa. It's a mansion.
It's a significant portion of the town, I think.
Yeah,
based on
5%.
It's a very old house. And what I did last year and continued this year is I wanted to have a weekend board game / Netrunner like weekend retreat. And I figured, like, if I was going to do it, I want to go all out and I want to reference the TV show Billions that did a Netrunner episode, right? Mm-hmm. So in Billions, the two main characters, they go to this tournament in New York and they're dressed to the nines, and everyone at the tournament is dressed to the nines, right? Like, that's the big thing is you go there, the lights are dim, everyone looks crisp, and they're playing Netrunner. And it's just like, what is happening? And I wanted to recreate it. It's a big meme on StimHack Slack. It's been a big meme in the community for a while of just like people reference the show and like, you watch the clip and it's just like, this is so funny.
You watch the clip and I don't know, I've never watched Billions besides that clip, which I've seen many times now. And the female character walks in and to a bouncer at the front door and goes, I'm here for the Netrunner tournament. You should have my name. And like checks the list and then lets her in. And it's like, no, that's not how it is.
I want there to be that in New York City, right?
So they actually brought in real Netrunner players to consult and make sure that the gameplay made sense. And it does. There's, playing paperclip and breaking toll booths with there's a decoder that they use to break the toll booth, and they get it right. And then there's this big dramatic. Anyway, we'll put a link to the show notes of that clip if you haven't seen it. It's phenomenal.
I'm pretty sure Dan D'Argenio, the 2-time world's winner, his cards are the ones that are being played. In the show because he was one of the people that.
Speaking of which, there was a Reddit post earlier yesterday, where a person who works on Billions posted a bunch of playmats and cards from the time when they filmed that episode. So you can go buy a playmat from this guy. There's he has 10 playmats. I reached out and I said if I can get one. It's like the root playmat.
Yeah.
He's got 10 of those, and I want to buy one just to have one from the Billions filming.
Yeah. I'm sad I might have missed that because that is awesome. But yeah, we're here in the mansion.
Bunch of gremlins by the window.
We're getting. Dan can't see this, but
nice.
we've attracted a crowd.
And we're here to play Netrunner. So yesterday was all about board games, and we got about 18 people here. And everyone has apparently woken from their slumber and are and they're hungover slumber and are eating breakfast, and they want me to set up a draft because I have the cards all set up.
Well,
ready
I
to
was
go.
going to say, I can see the packs.
Yeah. It's going to be really cool. Yeah. So we're going to do a draft. We're going to have 2 drafts today. I have a 10-person draft in the main room and then a 6-person draft of NSG cards in the study that we're going to go and play. So there should be enough drafting for everybody. And if there are more people, because that is 16 and I know how math works, then I have a bunch of old Fantasy Flight draft packs that we can crack open as
the
well.
actual randomized ones with the draft IDs and stuff. Yeah.
So
is that a thing that Null Signal Games is going to start making?
No, I'm testing it out as a, hey, could I show this at conventions and have like this pack of cards that just has not all of our stuff, but a good amount, and kind of like get people into the game. If it works well, maybe make an unofficial cube that we can bring to Worlds or bring to other places. But this is definitely just a side project that I'm kind of testing out.
So none of us have played Netrunner Draft. I know at some point Johnny and I looked into like what the rules are for drafting like a cube, but can you want to just give like a 10-second like here's how it works?
If you've never
you can
done
have more than 10 seconds if you need it.
Like if you've never done a
Hold on, let me start a timer.
If you've never done a draft before, it is you have a randomized set of packs. So usually with a cube that someone has put together, you take it and you put, I don't know, 10 or 15 cards in a stack, and you give people 3 stacks of those cards, and you open a pack, quote unquote, and you take one of those cards in that pack and put it down, and you pass it to your right, and then you take whatever's passed to you, and you take another card, and you build a deck out of it. You do runner side first, or you do the corpse side first, then you do the runner, and you got to be careful, right? You got to grab ice, you got to grab agendas.
Econ's good,
yeah, and these are 1-ofs, right? You don't get 3 of the thing you're grabbing.
The cube in the main room here is my hyper cube, which you do get play sets of, but a normal draft you do take singletons.
You get like 3 of like a console you only want 2 of or something. Your decks are not optimal. That's
you get more cards than you would put in a deck.
Yeah, you absolutely do. Yeah, so my weird
pile.
thing, you get a lot of cards.
Yeah.
The draft I did yesterday we did the old FFG packs. It's weird. My deck is very weird, and it's only a 30 card deck because you only draft a small amount of cards. But it's a lot of fun. You get a lot of people playing Netrunner.
Can you end up breaking the agenda point distribution things with that, or don't you fill with like some basic agenda or something?
Yes, there's always like an emergency. Oh, you messed up. You have to play priority requisition, which is like send a message but worse because it doesn't fire on steel. It's only on score.
Right. I remember. Yeah, priority. Yeah.
And if you're playing 30 card decks,
it's
to 6 points.
That seems real bad.
2 of those and you're done, right? It's a 5-3, yeah.
But there's a lot of 3-2s in that format. So
okay.
If you did it right, you're okay.
Yeah, that'll be fun. We're going to participate and get,
smooshed.
Smooshed, yeah.
And then this
Absolutely
evening,
destroyed.
most of the people that are staying over they have their suits and dresses in their rooms. Everyone's going to go upstairs, going to get changed. We're going to come downstairs. Everyone's going to look all fancy. We're going to take lots of pictures and play Netrunner fancy like. So
we already look fancy, by the way.
Absolutely.
Yes.
We came prepared. We have our integrated circuit ties.
As fancy as I'm going to get anyway.
Yes.
I don't even know if my collar quite covers the whole tie, but oh well.
It does.
Won't allow you to play if it is wrong.
Perfect.
Don't worry. So, but that's going to be a team event, Fancy Runner, right?
Yeah, like it's not something competitive. I wanted to do something that was a little bit different and gets more people to talk to each other. So we did a team tournament, just duos, because I felt like dressing up fancy like duos, just kind of like, I don't know, it's kind of thematic. And Billions, they're kind of going on a date to this tournament, right. So it makes sense. But they're playing against each other.
Oh, so we're gonna be going on a date. Whoever's my teammate,
maybe.
Yeah, you're gonna be.
So the idea with the duos is just you and your partner play against another team, and like with any team tournament, the benefit is you can share information with your partner and be able to get advice and get help, right? Being not actual help in game. You can't give your partner credits or anything, but you're able to say like, okay, should I draw here? Like,
they can remind you of missed triggers and things like that.
So you're not playing simultaneously.
No, you don't need to like take your turn in full while your partner takes your turn in full. You can just keep playing the game
But you are playing
the
the two
games are
games
both going
Yeah,
on.
you're playing both games. Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that. I thought one person was just literally sitting over the shoulder.
No, you're both
Arm
playing
around.
games and you're able to help each other.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, I'm glad
It's
I clarified.
required.
I would have been surprised.
Sets the mood.
Just sitting there without a deck going,
I ruined the
when are we
surprise
starting?
Yeah.
That's awesome. I'm looking forward to all of those things. Thanks for putting it all together.
It's fun.
If you are a listener who is motivated, you should also set up a mansion runner in your local area.
I was going to say that because the reason we can do this is because we have like 18 people, right? Like it's very cost effective when you have that many people to afford like a big fancy house. And when are you going to be able to like stay in a house like this and play? I think I played like 12 board games yesterday, like just like a bunch of stuff I wanted to play and just like, hey, does anyone want to play PAX Premier? It's a really hard game to get to the table. Very easy to do here.
Yep.
There was like a 10-person Serial Confluence game going last night.
Oh, Johnny, you're breaking Johnny's heart.
Yes. It was really good.
Or, a 5 or a 6 person mini mansion runner is probably much more feasible for people who don't have a huge scene. But anyway.
Yeah.
We're blessed
Shack runner.
here. Shack runner. Yeah. Cabin runner.
There is a castle in New Hampshire I was eyeing. I was just going to a castle.
Which one? Castle in the Clouds?
I don't know. I just saw it on Airbnb and I was
Next
like,
year.
I don't
That's
think you can
cool.
get. I don't think you can get Castle in the Clouds.
Not
It's
the whole
usually for
thing?
weddings.
Okay, fair.
It's probably booked up
Well,
for years.
That's the
that's a
first
good
for
point.
everything,
That's a
Johnny.
good It's the only castle I know.
Let's move along to 24/7 news cycle. We have some exciting news in this episode's news cycle segment, and that is going to be all about East Coast Nationals. They have been announced, and we have just the person here. You may have heard him speaking just moments ago.
Just slightly.
Let us introduce Dan B.
Dan B is going to tell us all about East Coast Nationals because he has organized them. You submitted the event to NSG. Was that just to yourself and you rubber stamped a thing on a paper?
absolutely not.
No,
Like,
why
that
don't you
is-
tell us about East Coast?
All right, fair.
Yeah, so I applied as a tournament organizer. I'm not like there's no basically they have to have a separate group of people that have not submitted applications to do the final walkthrough.
It's all
and
above
see.
board.
Yeah. But East Coast Nationals, reminder if people are not aware that both the United States and Canada both are getting 2 national events, or I think this have multiple national events. I think there's 2. There might be 3. I'm not sure. I know about mine, and that's really it. But because of the geographical situation, there's a lot of. It's really hard to get to from one coast to the other. So there's multiple nationals happening in the U.S., and I applied to be one of those. And by I said I'm the one who submitted the application, but there is a group of us that are actually organizing things because it is not that close to me. It's on the East Coast. It's in the Boswash
kind of.
area, but it's
I was
in
going to say
Philadelphia.
it's actually funny that the closest national to us is actually in Canada.
Yeah,
Right.
absolutely. It's about an equal distance for me, and I'm hoping to get to the Canada one to play in it because I'm 50-50 on if I'm actually going to be able to play in East Coast.
Yeah.
Philly is a neighbor to the East Coast, in my opinion.
It's harder for the New Hampshire folks for sure. Yeah. A couple hours south.
We're grumpy about it. No,
Yeah,
we're fine.
it's
We're
about
actually
an hour.
looking forward to taking the train down and getting to play Netrunner for 5 hours. So.
Yes, that part's going to be great.
So the reason Philadelphia was chosen was because it is a hub, right? It's very central to a lot of player bases, and it's central to a lot of. It's also very close to some big airports, right? So I do know some people that have been like in Europe and the UK that have traveled to U.S. nationals before, right? So we wanted to be able to have it in a place where it is accessible to a lot of people. And the other thing is it's very nostalgia focused. Red Caps, where it's located, is a game store that had some of the biggest regionals in the FFG era, over 100 people.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
It was a massive scene. It's where, and the East Coast area around there, Philadelphia, Delaware, New York, that's where the Sharks lived, right? That is a big, like, competitive, or was a big competitive area. Now, obviously, the game has shifted. A lot of people that used to play very competitively haven't, but it's also kind of my chance to revitalize, right?
Yeah,
Be
pull
able to
them back
remind
in.
people.
Get the hooks back in them,
The Nationals has never been on the East Coast before, right? Hey, Nationals, it's in your backyard. Come out and play, right?
Yeah. I'm super excited. So when is the event?
So it is going to be on July 29th and 30th at Radcap's Corner in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania.
And registration for the event happens how?
Okay, so we are going to be, this is reliant on email that I need to be sending out very soon. We are aiming to be selling tickets through Redcap's website starting May 1st.
Okay.
Yeah,
cool.
So,
Yeah, we haven't bought tickets yet, but there is an Always Be Running episode or event up that we will link in the notes.
Yes.
And
Yes, you can register there. That does not guarantee you a spot. You need to buy a ticket.
So is this how you said not guaranteed a spot? So there's a cap on how many people can register, and what is that?
So Redcaps has a capacity on their upper floor area, which we have access to, of 100 players, and I am pushing hard to get that number. I want 100 players at this event.
Wow.
So
I think we
FOMO,
can do
get
it.
your tickets now.
So
Well,
so
May
being
1st.
pretty new to the Null Signal scene, what do you think the odds are that you hit the cap? Like how big have the events been up to this point?
So I am not going to be displeased if we hit 60. I think we can definitely hit 60. I think that if we do a good job hyping and pushing things, and there's a couple of techniques that I have in my back pocket for doing that I think is going to help out a lot.
Is one of them going on podcasts?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. Well, yeah, no,
we are serving the greater good.
Exactly.
Yeah. Say the greater good. Yeah.
Phil, get me on your podcast, please. I know you're listening.
We see you.
It's the one I haven't been on.
Well, make it happen, Phil. Come on.
Yeah, jeez.
So that's getting to the event. The end of July. We are all going. The three
Yes.
of us are going to go. We will be there. So if you want to see Neon Static in person, because it matters, we will
We'll even be
there.
wearing our shirts.
I
You
will
can
say
find
that
it.
by that point, we
We will-
will have T-shirts.
We will
So-
have T-shirts. We actually, this is the news segment. So that is also something I want to mention that we have designed. We put our logo on a T-shirt and we have it up in a web store. I think it's a Shopify or Printify link or something like that. So I will put that in the show notes for this. And if you want a T-shirt, you can go buy them. They're like between $25 and $30, depending on size and color and things like that. So grab one of those if you want. I don't know why you would, but
Right.
I specifically designed them for us so that we could have a T-shirt.
I
for
was
our
shocked.
own
When,
logo.
I thought the same thing when we did the train shuffling shirts, and then we've seen so many people in the wild that I mean, not in the wild at train events,
Yes.
train gaming events.
Yes.
but,
Yeah, I don't know.
But still,
I caught enough flack from my wife for getting one, and I'm on the podcast, so I don't know. Like that.
People have
seems-
more understanding wives than you.
Okay, fair.
No, I don't know.
Ange is an avid listener of Neon Static, by the way. Nick.
Yes,
I mean,
obviously.
yeah, right.
Obviously.
Yeah. A few other things to note here. I just want to mention that we put a couple of videos on our YouTube channel from recent top table events from our startup tournament that we talked about in episode 4. Episode 4. And that is up on the YouTube channel with commentary. We were joined by Jeff Yasengren for commentary on that and on the finals from Dan's event in Norton, Mass, from a month after that event, I think, or a couple weeks after that event that I got to go to. That day, I also recorded a bunch of interviews. You may have already heard that episode, depending on release order, because these are going to be overlapping at some point. But I have a podcast episode where I talked to a bunch of people from the tournament day, including the two people who played in the top tables, Erica and Holly, and have a little interview with them. But we have commentary on a YouTube video. I'm very proud of basically having stood on the shoulders of giants. Dojepong designed, you may have seen in a bunch of older Netrunner videos where cards come in from the side and show up on the screen as they're talking about it. I kind of took that, forked his code, and got it back working again. And I'm working on improving that. And I'm going to make a video at some point going over how if you want to use it, how to get it set up, and how to use it. And if you want to help contribute to that, let me know. I'm Canister. I'm on Discord, and I'm asking a bunch of people, including getting help from the people who run Netrunner DB, how they do their card search and stuff like that to implement.
aren't you planning like a full rebuild in Svelte?
I am planning a full rebuild in Svelte eventually if I learn how to do that. I'm learning JavaScript and Node.js and all this stuff on the fly. I'm not a web developer, but I do code partially for a living, so it's coming okay relatively easily to me. So Anyway, that's up. I also wanted to thank Andre from the Metropole Grid for a very cool shout out on one of his streams where he mentioned us. That was very
That
kind.
was pretty awesome. So,
Yeah. Okay, so that's news. And now we're going to head into the depths.
All right. So this is Into the Depths. This is our main segment, and we're going to talk with Dan, who you may recognize from the previous two segments, about community building.
They've kidnapped me. Help me.
Yeah, he's like, no, I have to run my cube. But let's talk about this fast. We wanted to try and give people the cliff notes. We've kind of sort of tried to do this in one of the other episodes that we released, but you are very good at this. How should people, if they want to start a Netrunner community, it's not impossible. It's actually very possible. And I feel like there's a few important steps that maybe aren't emphasized enough. And we wanted to have you try and walk us through best practices for getting a scene going for you.
First step, you need another person, right? It's Netrunner, right? You got to have two people. But two people is a community, you can start building from that, right? So you got to find somewhere to either host the event, host meetups, and make that pretty consistent. Hey, we're going to meet at this game store on Mondays. And then you go on Monday, realize Pokemon night. So it's going to be Tuesday instead. That's what happened to me.
But other game stores near you,
Yes.
breweries are for some reason, breweries and gaming just like they click very well together. And this happens a lot. I've seen there's a Boston group plays at a brewery, Aeronaut.
Yeah, that's more of they have a nice outdoor seating area with a little bit on the restaurant side of things, but it's a restaurant that allows you to hang out and order food and also play games.
And honestly, one of the big things is just that wherever you go, it's public. You have to have somewhere where people can see you playing, because that's one of the ways that you get people to show up is that they know it's happening.
And that's the best excuse for, the best excuse is actually because you want to support your local game store, but it's a good reason for doing it in game store, because you can get people to come in and check out the game. Now, that being said, I want to make this very important PSA reminder. Netrunner is a game that these game stores are not selling.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So I make it very clear to the players in my community, hey, we are not playing a game that supports this store. Please buy your board games here, buy your sleeves here, buy your deck boxes
Snacks,
here.
drinks.
Make the store know that those Netrunner players will be supporting the store because of other situations. If you run tournaments at that store, have the store run the payments for the tickets, and a lot of times stores will pay out store credit as prizes.
As a prize,
right?
Yeah,
like pay $10 to go into a circuit opener, and the top 3 or top 4 will all the money that went in will come, besides the cost of the kit, will come back out as store credit. The store's still getting money because they're going to get a sale, right? They want to sell you a new board game or something, and it helps the store. It helps the store a ton.
You might get $10 or $20 in store credit. Maybe you buy a $60 game. That's even more. That's helping them.
I know back in the day, that's how a lot of the good competitive players in my meta bought Netrunner cards, right? They just played in enough tournaments that they were able to sustain the data pack cycle, right? Of just like buying new packs through a lot of their winnings.
Yeah.
That was fun.
Right. So having the store. So for our last tournament, I believe we took we had more people come than we expected. So we were able to give a small cut to the store. And then in the future, we're going to be able to have more go towards the store. So that's helpful.
We put everything beyond the cost of the kit. We paid to the store.
That's awesome. And doubly so because of the terrible stuff that happened at that store that
I know.
The break-in.
The store got
glass up.
We showed up to the tournament that day, and the front door was missing, and someone had broken in and stolen some mostly Magic cards, I guess. But that was a pretty rough for them.
Just really lucky that the news team was there to cover the tournament, so they could also cover the break-in.
I was on the news.
Yeah, right.
Shuffling cards.
I will also put a link in the show notes to the WMUR local New Hampshire news clip where you can see Netrunner cards on
display.
Is it national news? I don't know. No, it's local news.
Local news. Exact opposite of that.
Anyway, I'll put a link to that so people can see. Dan's in there. Yeah, you can see him very clearly. So, some turbine and stuff.
Dan, you mentioned something, and this might be a good segue into another part of building a Netrunner scene. You mentioned that you need 2 players to play, which is obviously true. But I wanted to mention that if you start a Netrunner team, if you advertise that there's going to be a weekly game night, whether it's at a store or a bar, even if you're the only one that you know is going to be there, to still show up, because somebody might have seen the advertisement or walked by and seen you play in the previous week, and one can become two.
Show up and visibly be playing Netrunner. I have made the mistake of I show up early and, I'm sitting there playing Marvel Snap or something on my phone, and my decks are all packed up in a box, and you can't see that I am there for Netrunner. Not going to get anyone to walk up to you and go, hey, you're obviously here for that Netrunner thing, right?
We actually have a little sign. I haven't been great about bringing it, but we put a sign out on one of those little like clear standy things. We slip the 8.5 by 11 in, put it at the table, and it just says like, come play Netrunner. We're here to play Netrunner. And with our store, they allowed us to put Netrunner nights on the calendar. I mentioned it on their Facebook and Discord for their local store. So that all helps. And yeah, being there, showing up and being friendly, you will play with strangers, but turns out that most of them are fun and cool.
Yeah. And we gave our local group a name and a logo and put a kind of official looking signage up on the store. So
with a QR code, that was Dan's idea.
Yeah. The QR code's great. We've gotten so many people to join the Discord off that, just walking by.
I use that at conventions, right? So when I do conventions for whatever local scene it is, so the ones for PAX East, I made business cards. On one side had the green level clearance Discord, and on the other side had whatever the local scene is. So in Philadelphia, it's for the Philadelphia scene. For New England and PAX East, it was the one that I had made the previous week, which was to try to get people into the game in Boston and Rhode Island and Connecticut, and it's just blown up from there. So yeah, having a central place where people can talk and organize is very important. Something like a Discord, or I know some people still use Facebook groups as that. One thing to actually note as a nice tip in terms of advertising, right? Green Level Clearance has a channel for finding local players, and there's a big pinned document, a spreadsheet that has all links to Discords or people that are looking to find groups. That's a huge way to say, hey, is anybody here from Rhode Island? And all of a sudden I'll pop in and be like, yes, please play with me. Or another way you could do it is just promote it on Shock and Blast, right? Promote it everywhere. Promote it on Netrunner Dorks on Facebook. Promote it on the subreddit. Promote it in GLC. Another one that a lot of people do miss, and that's really big, is look on Facebook for the Facebook groups from 5 or 6 years ago. The New England LCG Facebook is dead, but I'll post in there a couple times a year being like, there's an event, here's what's going on, and you will find the people that are like, oh, I want to play Netrunner again, please. Yeah, I have. And another thing, promote that you have decks.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right. You don't need to buy anything.
You don't need to buy anything. You don't even need to proxy anything. I will have decks for you to play, and I will walk you through it, and we'll play some teaching games.
Right. And if you're acting as the host for one of these events at your weekly meetups or bi-weekly meetups, we do bi-weekly meetups at our store, is to have things built in always on the side, just have them all the time. And the startup format has been fantastic for us. I want to really make a point to hit on the startup format as a fantastic way to get people in and get the hooks in.
Yeah. However people want to play, that's the important thing. And standard players that want to play Netrunner will play startup players that want to play Netrunner, and there is a bunch of standard games going, hand them some decks and walk them through it. Right. It's for people want to play the game, right?
It's a slippery slope. We've had a bunch of people who are, I'm not going to play Netrunner. Oh, I'll borrow your deck. And, the startup's pretty cheap. It's only how much more to get into standard? Oh, all right. I can do that. Oh, I can just proxy it all? Sure, I'll throw some standard decks together. And then, all of a sudden.
You were smart to call the gateway pack and not call the startup format the gateway format, because it is really a gateway drug into standard. And you've masked that a little bit in the name.
A little bit,
It is good. The other thing that I want to say, I don't know if is it NSG that has all those assets for the posters for tournaments and game nights and things like that. So if you don't have people like Eric and Johnny who can actually do some level of design, if you are like me, challenged at images, then they have those assets available already pre-built. You just fill in the details for your events and off you go.
Yeah, it's like a tournament organizers assets link. I will put a link in the show notes as well for that.
You could say Sally sells seashells by the seashore.
Sally doesn't sell seashells by the seashore. She sells seashells by the seashore. Yes.
But you can't say tournament organizer.
Tournament. Sorry, I can't. Yeah, my mouth doesn't work right now.
Finally, one other thing I would suggest, and something that I am trying as a kind of a proof of concept that I think is going to be that I'm hoping is going to work well, is consistency of events. I'm planning on doing a monthly tournament in my area, being able to say once a month there's going to be a tournament. That brings people from a larger area in and actually says, okay, well, on the weekends, sure, I can plan for a tournament once a month, or maybe they can't do it 1 month. But if the tournaments are firing every single month, now all of a sudden the people up in Boston are going to travel south to Rhode Island, or maybe they're going to travel north up to New Hampshire, right? And the Rhode Island folks are going to go up to Boston for an event. And now all of a sudden you have this larger group coming together, and the people that are tertiary, the ones that maybe go to a night once every 3 times, now all of a sudden they're like, oh, this is actually like a bigger thing. This is cool. I want to be more interested in this because there's consistency.
Yeah. Right. We had the New England L5R scene had a rotation going between, I don't know how many.
It's like 5 or 6 different stores.
So, and there was a tournament organizer associated with each store, and there was a rotation. So every week there was a tournament. And if you couldn't make it to one, you could make it to, you could probably make it to another. And it made it to every tournament had a great turnout, and we all got to know each other. And it was really great to have like a whole New England community.
Exactly.
Yep. One other thing I want to say, and Johnny mentioned it earlier, is enthusiasm. You kind of have to be enthusiastic when you're showing people. It'll rub off, like he said, right? If you're having a blast, and also, I'm of 2 minds on this, but maybe lose the first game. Like when you're playing against someone, if you're teaching them the game, if you just step on their face, it's not going to be fun for them. But if you, like I played a game against a neighbor. Hi, John, if you're listening, I doubt you are. We played a game, and I played a deck where I just made the worst decisions. And I was like, let me just put I see that you have a cleaver out. I'll put my ice wall down, and I'm going to put a 3-point agenda behind it. And then like, oh no, you got it. Good job. But he had a good time. He was like, oh wow, that's what I was looking for.
It can backfire though, because they don't see how cool the game can be sometimes depending on how it plays out.
I think that the way to do that is to pick, and I think in startup, my pick for this would be Isuak, a deck that can do cool things that is not necessarily terribly good. So you can show them like, hey, I did all this cool stuff. Look at all this popping off that I did. Oh, I still lost. Oh, well,
And don't play PE against a new player.
Yes, do not.
I disagree.
Oh, really? What?
So before I go into that hot take is that I've played a lot of teaching games, right? As running conventions and whatnot, which is always with the gateway starter decks. And I see it as you're a game master setting the pace of the game. It's like you're playing Dungeons and Dragons and you're the DM, right? Oh. You are setting the challenge level. And if the players do something that's a little bit dumb, like, I don't know, run last click with 1 card in hand into a Karuna, maybe you don't res that Karuna, right?
Yeah.
But when they have 2 cards in hand, you definitely do.
Yeah, it's definitely a dynamic.
How close
you're trying to keep the difficulty level in line with their performance and understanding of the game and engagement. Yeah.
While still showing what the game is and what you can do with it.
I always play Corp because hidden information, you can set that tone. You're able to say, you can ice things in maybe suboptimal ways where not professional, but someone that's been a skilled player will be able to say like, that was the wrong play. Why did you do that? But a new player is not going to see that. They're going to see it, and they're going to have a lot of fun being able to, like, if you're on 6 credits, you just put an advanced card in the remote. You res the brand on R&D when they run, and then you can even tell them, look, I now res that big scary piece of ice on R&D, and maybe it even fired, but guess what? I have no credits to res that ice on the remote, and you can go in and steal that agenda.
Yep.
Look at that cool thing you just did. Right. You forced me to spend money.
Yeah.
In terms of PE for new players.
Yeah, you're going to need to
I think
defend
it's
that,
actually
'cause-
better to have them play it.
Okay.
But, but I think that there is a subset of players or potential players that when they see, and I've seen people's eyes light up when they realize that they can die in this game, right?
Yeah.
Oh, you can die, which means I can kill them, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm that kind of person. I love that. One of the things that really drew me in when I first started playing was like getting killed and the feeling of danger.
The traps, and there's some people that really like those traps. And if that's the type of person, and don't play like the super optimized PE, but just play PE that has some, not all the 1-point agendas, but maybe play House of Knives, and then play a bunch of normal, like play some Nisei Mark IIs, and maybe even like send the message or whatever.
Throw in a couple Urtica ciphers just to keep them honest.
Yes,
I like giving the new corp player a PE deck that's a great first deck because it's like this is going to be hard by itself.
As a corp deck, yes. As a corp player, I think having like them run into a PE deck feels really.
I was teaching a friend of mine, and I knew, I was like, he's a degenerate, and he'll love PE. I'm like, you should play this, and as he's going, he's like, I really like this. It's like, I know you do.
Yeah,
but that's knowing your friends, right?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
We've had a number of people come into the store, 2 or 3 players now, where in their first game, like I flatlined them, and maybe this is just bad practice on my side, but I kind of got the feeling this was like an ex-Magic player, I think, where I flatlined him. I did like a public trail and the line, and I had shown them the cards and said,
yes,
I can do this before we start the game. First of all, here's a card that will give you a tag, and then here's how it happens, and then here's a card that will kill you when you have a tag. So
you did.
I'm going to try and kill you. I said I'm going to try and kill you, and that's what's going to happen.
And that's what's going to happen.
Well, no, that's my game plan. And then I killed them, and they were kind of like, well, this game is unbalanced, and there's no way to play against that, and I am not going to play anymore. And we kind of were like, well, no, there's a way to play against it, but I get where how I can feel that way at first without knowing the cards. And part of this is just learning the cards, right? And that's something with the game.
In the original 2012 core set, they suggested Kate versus PE, and imagine the amount of players that have died to snare on 2 cards, or
right.
Yeah. So the other thing that I do when teaching new players with the starters is when I'm going through the deck and showing, oh, this is an asset, this is an agenda, this is a piece of ice. I always say, well, here's the action where you can advance a card. Most of the cards I advance are going to be agendas. However, you could see I just showed you that asset. I can advance this trap. By the way, there's 2 of them in this deck.
Yeah.
Yep.
Right.
I let them know this could be a trap. It's probably not going to be. But by the way, if there's 2 advancements on this card, you should have 4 cards in hand.
Yep.
Right.
And they think
or
about
be okay
that.
with losing. Yeah.
And that's, or just like, be okay with, okay, well, if it's an agenda, then you win, so I have to go and try to get it, and then they die, and that feels okay because they feel like they made the right play.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Real quick, as a final segment, without an intro music because I don't have one for this. What is everybody playing for the tournament today? Quick, go, Johnny.
I'm playing Sports Metal on the corpse side and Atom on the runner side.
I have Hoshiko, and because I'm a degenerate, PE.
What are you playing? Because I'm your partner,
I
Dan.
have no idea. What are you playing?
It
depends on what you have.
I want to go over this with you before we start. I have a meta. So my last tournament, I played complete homebrew. Well, an Alice deck from Metropole Grid and a homebrew Isuak, and I got crushed. Although I say the Alice deck did much better. I just made some silly mistakes. The Isuak just got stepped on. But I built complete meta 419 and smoke options, and then an outfit deck.
Okay,
this silly monotism. Yeah. So
I'll probably play Freedom then as my runner, because I like shaper things, and it's actually secretly a shaper deck, but it's red, so you can and I have been playing Ob a lot, but because one of the rules is we're trying not to have the same factions on the same team, I'll probably play Sports Metal.
Okay.
Nice.
All right.
I have 4 deck sleeves, so
I have
it really
to decide
depends.
between the Shaper and the 419 between now and then.
And you have options.
Eric has a very unfair advantage compared to Nick and I because he's pairing up way up.
Yeah.
Way up.
What's that called when you like marry? I'm marrying up.
Oh, marrying up,
Yeah. I'm not marrying Dan, but
That's,
we're both
well,
married.
listen, I mean, the whole theme, right, is the dating at the Netrunner tournament.
Yes.
So you never know. You never know.
Be ready to be disappointed.
You were in top 4 at our startup tournament, so I have.
We've
faith
seen
in
you play. You can't be modest here.
Well, thanks so much for coming on the podcast and talking with us, Dan. We've been trying to make this happen for a little bit. I'm really glad we got to do it in person. It's a lot more fun than if you're doing it online.
Absolutely.
So thanks for chatting with us, and thanks for all that you do for the Netrunner community. Honestly, I think we all owe you a big thank you. You are a hype man.
I'm a small part in a much larger team that is very skilled.
Thank you, Dan, and the entire Null Signal Games team.
Yes, obviously, thank you to Null Signal and all that you do. Also, slightly self-serving, but not really. We would also mention that, like, if the person that you are playing with, this new person, because I just thought of this and forgot to mention it, is into podcasts, you could point them at us. Yes. And we are trying to have content that is not entirely focused around, but friendly for new players. And we're going to try and read cards when possible, if it makes sense. We will have also for players who are new players. I've seen some comments on like Discord and things like that. Like, oh, they're a startup podcast. It's not for me. We will be having more standard content, and we're going to try and do a thing where we, have episodes that are effectively labeled. Like, this is the main topic for this is going to be a standard focus. For this is going to be a startup focus episodes, and we're going to toggle back and forth,
like a Metropole grid type.
Yes,
tag.
stealing that.
Yeah,
that
shamelessly.
Thank you, Andre.
I would say it's also not. I'm biased, but I don't think it's self-serving because we're trying to build good content for the community.
Yeah,
I mean, we get gratification out of it, but that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks for listening. We have been Neon Static, and we don't have a sign off yet. Do we have a sign off?
Nope.
Okay. Well, with that, we're going to slowly fade into the distance.
Yeah, let's go draft.
Let's go draft.
Thanks everyone for listening.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Thank you.